Welcome back yet again. Yes, the videos are coming fast and furious for a while here. We'll see how long that keeps up. Now that we're giving the blue and white a bit of a rest, not much, it's still running over there, I'm going to turn my attention, and hopefully you will turn your attention too, to the Quicksilver. You'll remember from the video in which I introduced it, it is a 733 megahertz single CPU G4. It needs a lot of work before I can even try to see if I can live with that as a primary computer. I am hopeful about it. Alright, so here are some of the upgrades that I am going to have to do before we can even start working with that machine. First, RAM. The RAM that's in there is very, very limited. It's not even 512. So I have three 512 megabyte DIMMs. There's only three RAM slots in there, so that will max it out at 1.5 gigabytes. Alright, now RAM alone won't really accomplish much because right now there's no drive in there. So I am going to be installing an OWC 120 gigabyte SSD. The Quicksilver has the same IDE limitation as to not recognizing anything over 128 gig. I have already attached the IDE to SATA adapter, so this should get us going. I am going to do a couple of things with PCI slots. There is a card in there currently. It is a USB 2 FireWire 400 card with two external USB 2 ports, two external FireWire 400 ports, and one internal FireWire 400. I'm going to swap that out because I picked up this card on eBay. It was very cheap, so I figured, what the heck, I know I will find a use for it somewhere. I thought it was similar to a card that I already have, which gives 4 USB 2 ports plus 2 FireWire 400 ports. And that much is the same. However, this does have not only an internal FireWire 400, but an internal USB 2. Now, if the card is working correctly and the computer recognizes it correctly, USB 2 should be slightly faster than FireWire 400. So that would be an option to connecting a drive. And I have such a drive. These are wonderful little enclosures. They're a little pricey. It's like $50 from OWC. But you can put a standard 2.5 laptop hard drive or SSD in there. I, of course, have chosen an SSD because who wants to put in hard drives these days? Alright, so this currently has a 500 gigabyte SSD installed in there. The nice thing about it, it's FireWire 800, but with the proper cable. You can plug it in and it does work with FireWire 400 enabled computers. At FireWire 400 speeds, of course. And USB 3. So it can plug into, say, my Mac Pro and be usable there. All very, very, very good. Now, of course, USB 3 is backwards compatible with USB 2, so I should then be able to plug this card into this card. Well, this enclosure into that card. Alright, now there's one last thing I'm going to try to do. I'm going to install yet another 120 gig hard drive. This is really just for a test. Since I've got the thing open, I might as well see if it works here. This is a Promise Fast Track 100. I had tried using this to get a second 120 gig SSD into the blue and white. It didn't work. What I want to try to figure out, is it a problem with the card, or more likely a lack of drivers for the card, or is it the blue and white? So we'll put it in, and if it works, that will tell us something. I don't really see a reason for leaving that drive in there, but I want to test that out. Okay, now, how am I going to tell if all of this is working? None of these drives have an operating system on them. So, I've got another one. This is an older FireWire external hard drive. On this hard drive, I have installed OS 9.2.2 and 10.4.11 Tiger. Right. Therefore, I should be able to boot up into one of the operating systems on this, and then I can check to see if everything else is in fact working. So that's the plan, so stay tuned. In just a split second, you'll see the Quicksilver opened up with these upgrades already installed, and I'll show you exactly what it was I did. So stay tuned. Alright, so here's what I've done. I replaced the PRAM battery. I thought this was interesting. This focus. The old battery. Made in Israel. You don't see that every day. Okay. Now, here are the 3 RAM slots. Hopefully that RAM is all seated in there correctly. A little awkward to get at to between the heatsink and the graphics card. All right. Moving on. This is the USB 2 FireWire card. I plugged it into the internal USB 2 for right now, in part just because it's a more reasonable length cord. The FireWire 406 to 800 adapter cords that I have are like 6 feet long. I'm getting some smaller ones, but that's what I had. Okay, here's the PCIe IDE controller card with cable plugged in over to here, that middle drive. So we've got the USB enclosure drive here. This is the controller card drive. And then finally, the regular IDE connection there into the logic board going to this drive here. So we're going to close it up. We will be plugging in wherever the, oh yeah, here it is, the external hard drive. So we have something to boot from, and we will see what happens. Okay, we're back at the cinema display now, since this machine has got the appropriate port on its graphics card. Let's try booting it up. So far, so good. Okay, I was looking for an operating system there. This machine has not been on since I did the introductory video. Okay, we're booting into Mac OS 9. This on the external FireWire drive, of course. And that is a hard drive and a rather old one, so it it will be taking its time. Okay. All right, at this point, it's only seeing the external drive. But I think before we jump to any conclusions, the wise thing is going to be, I have to be some distance away from the monitor here. Just have to go around. All right. So let's start up disk. And we'll boot into Tiger and see what Tiger will show us. Okay, so we are booting into OS 10 now. Okay. All right, it's showing us right now. There are actually two OWC Mercury legacies. Let's go to disk utility. So there are 3 internal drives, and we're only seeing one of them. Okay, so. Okay. As far as seeing this, what is it telling us? It goes extended journaled. Okay, and those are the 3 partitions on the 3/4 terabyte drive. All right. Well, partial success. Let's have a look about this Mac. The 1.5 gigabytes of memory, that is there. Correct start disk, 733 megahertz PowerPC G4. Looking system profiler. PowerPC G4 2,1. All right, now let's look here. Yeah, so we're seeing the SSD that's connected to the built-in IDE. We're not seeing the PCI cards. No information found. Uh-huh. Well, that would explain why we're not seeing those two drives. Maybe they're just not plugged in correctly. No information found. How about that? Of course, there won't be anything here. There won't be anything here. Well, I mean, we've got USB speakers, but yeah, this is all. That's plugged into one of the built-in USB 1.1s, and then the hub here is the studio display. The keyboard and the mouse are both. Well, the mouse is plugged into the keyboard, which is plugged into the. It's not a studio display; it's a cinema display. But what the heck? Okay, so what? Oops. What we are going to have to do is shut this guy down, open it up again, and see if we can figure out what the heck is going wrong. Maybe I just need to reseat those two PCI cards, I hope. Okay, well, stay tuned. Alrighty then. I have removed the IDE controller card entirely. I swapped back USB 2 cards, and that internal SSD in the enclosure is now plugged in to FireWire rather than USB 2. So let's see what happens. Sure does have a nice chime. You wonder why Apple removed it in the newest Macs. Although I was just reading today, someone found a terminal command that would bring the chime back on those Macs. Let's hope. I've only got one, a 2018 Mac Mini, which doesn't chime. I'll have to get that connected up and see if that command works. Okay, booting into OS 10. Okay, that's something. We have the boot disk, or boot drive, partition. I don't know why there's no icon there, but I think it may just need to be formatted. That's the 120 gig SSD. And there's the now internal FireWire drive. Good. And then these two are both on the external SSD that we're booting from. All right. Now, that being the case, let's try formatting that, because it's going to need to get OS 9 drivers on it anyway. All right. Disk utility. Hey, I don't know why those PCI cards aren't working. No, I'll have to fiddle with that, but this is really the configuration I had expected to end up with. All right. Let's look at this and let's just erase it. Well, you know, no, let's just erase it first. And we're going to leave it as untitled because we're not done here. This should go very quickly. Okay, and there's untitled and it has its icon back. That, in fact, was the issue. Okay. Where is my mouse? There it is. Okay. So now, the next step in this has got to be getting an operating system, or more properly systems, knowing me, installed on one or both of these now internal drives. So my plan is going to be to put 3 partitions on the OWC drive. A 15 gig partition onto which I intend to install OS 9.2.2 and OS 10.0 Cheetah. That will be a brand new experience. I have never installed that first version of OS 10. And the big reason for doing that, of course, as I usually do, this is going to be the OS with which this machine shipped. It originally had 9.2.2 and 10.0. All right. Then I'm going to make another 15 gigabyte partition that will have, again, OS. Well, basically what I'll end up doing is cloning the first partition on the second partition. I want to install Puma OS 10.1. And of course I have an upgrade disk, so I'll have to have OS 10.0 on that partition before I can use the upgrade disk. And then that will leave a large partition onto which, well, comparatively large partition onto which I'll put Tiger. Okay, so let's split. All right. Now that's 9. Okay, let's try that. And this is now 10. What I'm trying to do is allow for the fact that it says 85. So yeah, I think basically this is pretty close. I'm trying to allow for the fact that the earlier OS 10 versions were defining gigabytes differently than we do today. So that should be pretty close to 1515 and then 90. So yeah, this is 13 point. You get 13.00, and we're just going to call this Cheetah. All right. And again, let's do the same thing here. Make that 13 even. Call this Puma. Always change those names later if we want. And yeah, that's probably actually going to be a little, maybe even a little more than 90 gig, which is good. I'm not really anticipating on this machine using Cheetah and Puma. I just basically want to have them on there to play with and learn from a little bit. I have installed Puma back in a previous, that is pre-Fire Life. I have never installed Cheetah, so that will be exciting. So we're going to call this obviously Tiger. All right. And let's partition. Oh. Pardon me while I reach around the tripod. All right. And this takes a little, well, it looks like it's going pretty quickly. It's already mounting drives. Puma, cheetah, tiger, all mounted now. Okay, so this is good. So the next step, basically, I'm going to do a whole series here of installation videos. We'll get a video installing 9.2.2, which I've done a number of times, but I have never actually recorded one. So that'll get on there. Now, the reason for doing that, you have to install in that order. Put 9.2.2 on and then install OS 10. Can't do it the other way around. But you want to have your install of 9.2.2 so that OS 10 will be able to use Classic, at least up through Tiger. So we'll get that done, 9.2.2, then Cheetah 10.0. After that, we'll install Tiger on the bigger partition. The reason for that being I can then stick on Carbon Copy Cloner and clone the first partition to the second partition, and then use my upgrade CD. And then finally, the denouement. Assuming all of this has worked, we've got this 512 gig Crucial SSD in there. I intend to install Leopard. Now, this machine at 733 megahertz, it's obviously quite a bit more powerful than the Sawtooth, but it falls short of that, I think, 867 megahertz limit that Apple set for being able to install Leopard. Now, we have seen in the past, obviously, if I was able to get Leopard to run on the Sawtooth, I'm going to be able to get it to run on this. But rather than cloning, which is how I did it with Sawtooth, I'm going to try installing from the DVD, in this case, and using Leopard Assist to make this happen. So, yeah, this is assuming this all works. Now, I don't know if it has anything to do with the mouse. In fact, I keep losing that cursor. Okay, we will close out a disk utility. We'll close that. Let's take our obligatory look at about this Mac. We still have our 733 megahertz PowerPC G4. We still have 1.5 gigahertz of RAM. We're still running 10.4.11. I'm going to have to go through that update hell. And now let's look at System Profiler. All of this, of course, is the same. I don't want to look at disk burning. Yeah, it's still saying it doesn't read DVDs. That can't be right. That would be a problem in terms of installing Leopard. Because Leopard's definitely on a DVD. Well, we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. We have graphics and displays, ATI, type display, AGP slot, etc., etc., etc. Then the Apple Cinema display, the memory, 3 slots, all populated with 512. It's interesting. It's saying PC 133, 333. I thought this would only read slower memory. Well, I'm glad to be shown wrong. Okay, and now we're seeing the FireWire hub that's on the PCI card and the USB PCI bridge USB hub. That's all as it should be. Take a look at USB. Hub and studio display. Then the speakers plugged in. And then, yes, there's now a new USB bus. That's the working card. I don't know what the thing was with that other card. I hope it's not just a bad card. Okay, and then looking at Firewire. Okay, yeah. So they're both in action. The interior one on the card is the On the Go Pro, and then the external one. That's one of the built-in Firewire hubs. That's the G Drive Mobile. Okay. I'm glad I picked that up. That was an eBay buy, and I really wasn't sure, but I figured, what the heck? If it turns out, it'll be good. Okay. And I mean, it's identifying as Power Mac G4 AGP graphics. That's the Sawtooth, but that's where this Tiger installation was originally set up. Okay, then. So that's the plan. The next things you should be seeing would be videos of installing operating systems. I'll have a good time. I hope you will join me and join in with that. So take care and be good to other people.